Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we go any further, I want you to stop whatever you're doing, because what I'm about to show you today is the kind of thing that makes people's jaws drop, the kind of story that collectors whisper about in hushed voices at auction houses, the kind of discovery that turns an ordinary Tuesday into the most unforgettable day of someone's life. And here's the thing, it starts with a penny, a simple, tiny, copper-colored penny that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. But this particular penny, this 2017 D Lincoln penny, is not just any penny. It is a coin that has been valued at a staggering, almost unbelievable $11 million. And yes, you heard that absolutely right, $11 million for what looks like an everyday 1-cent coin that could be sitting in your car's cup holder, or at the bottom of your old jacket pocket, or rattling around in a dusty jar on your kitchen counter right now. Now I know what you're thinking, how on earth does a coin from 2017, a year that isn't even that long ago, end up being worth $11 million? And that is exactly the question we are going to answer today, because the story behind this coin is layered, it's deep, it's packed with history and mystery and the kind of minting errors that make the numismatic world absolutely go wild. And I promise you, by the time we're done with this coin, you're going to look at your loose change in a completely different way. Now, before we dive all the way in, I want to remind you to stay with US today, because this 2017 D Lincoln penny is just the first coin we're covering, and the coins coming up after this one, let me tell you, they are even more jaw-dropping, even more unbelievable, with stories so shocking that even seasoned collectors couldn't believe what they were hearing. So do not go anywhere, do not touch that back button, because you are going to want to see every single coin we have lined up for you today. Now let's get into it. The year 2017 might seem recent, it might feel like just yesterday, but in the world of rare coins, even a coin minted last decade can carry extraordinary value if the right combination of factors align. And with this particular 2017 D Lincoln penny, the stars aligned in the most spectacular, most collector dream-worthy way imaginable. The D in 2017 D tells us this coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the United States Mint's most active and storied facilities, a place that has been producing coins since 1906, a facility that in 2017 was operating at full throttle producing billions, yes, billions of Lincoln cents to meet the country's demand for everyday circulation. And when you're striking coins at that kind of volume, when the presses are running around the clock, day after day, shift after shift, the probability of something going wrong increases, and sometimes, just sometimes, what goes wrong is actually what makes something incredibly, insanely valuable. The Lincoln penny itself has one of the most iconic histories in all of American coinage. It was first introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, making it the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to ever feature a real historical figure on its obverse. And since then, the Lincoln cent has gone through multiple design changes, from the original wheat stalks on the reverse to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, and then in 2010 the Union Shield reverse was introduced, which is the design you'll find on the 2017 D penny, that bold, powerful shield representing Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a unified nation. And it's against this rich historical backdrop that the 2017 D Lincoln penny found its extraordinary place in numismatic legend. Now here's where things get really interesting, because what separates this particular 2017 D penny from the billions of other pennies struck that same year comes down to something that collectors call a strike through error combined with what experts identified as a dramatic die CAP malfunction and a double strike anomaly, meaning this coin was essentially struck in a way that defied the normal mechanical process. The die, the metal stamp used to impress the design onto the coin, experienced a catastrophic misalignment at the exact moment of striking, and then, as if that wasn't enough, the coin was struck a second time before being ejected from the press, creating a layered, ghost-like doubling effect on both the obverse and the reverse that is so dramatic, so visually striking, that the moment it was submitted to professional grading services, experts immediately flagged it as one of the most significant modern error coins ever documented. And this is exactly the kind of coin that PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, live for, because when a coin like this comes in for authentication, the entire room stops, people gather around, and everyone wants to see the piece that could rewrite the record books for modern error coinage. And this coin did exactly that. It was graded and authenticated, encapsulated in that iconic hard plastic slab. And the moment it hit the market, bidders from across the country and around the world took notice, because serious collectors understand that a coin like this, a dramatically errored modern Lincoln cent with multiple, stacked, verifiable minting anomalies, is not just a coin, It is a piece of numismatic history frozen in copper and zinc, a one-of-a-kind artifact that can never be duplicated because the exact combination of mechanical failures that created it will never be replicated. Think about that for a second. Of the billions and billions of pennies that rolled off the Denver Mint's presses in 2017, only one carries this specific combination of errors, only one exists with this particular story, and that exclusivity, that absolute singularity, is precisely what drives its value to $11 million. Now let's talk about who finds coins like this, because it's not always the expert collectors with magnifying glasses and coin catalogs. Sometimes it's completely ordinary people. Regular folks who just happen to check their change, or who dig through a relative's old coin collection, or who pick up a penny jar at an estate sale for a few dollars and discover something inside that changes their life forever. And that's what makes the story of this 2017 D. Lincoln penny so emotionally powerful. Because it is proof, living, breathing, graded and encapsulated proof, that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places. Imagine reaching into a jar of loose change. Imagine rolling coins on a Sunday afternoon out of pure boredom. Imagine sorting through your grandfather's old collection not expecting to find anything significant. And then, you hold it up to the light, and something looks different, something feels different, the design doesn't look quite right, the edges seem off. There's a ghostly doubling where there shouldn't be, and in that moment your heart starts racing because you've watched enough videos, you've done enough research, you know what you might be holding, and the feeling of that moment, the possibility, the potential, the electric excitement, is something that no lottery ticket, no scratch card, no casino floor can ever replicate because this is real, this is history, and this is sitting right there in the palm of your hand. The auction history surrounding this coin is equally compelling, because when a coin of this caliber makes its way to a major numismatic auction, the energy in the room, or in the online bidding platform, is absolutely electric. Bidders go head-to-head. Collectors who have waited years for a piece like this finally get their shot, and the price climbs and climbs, past the point where most people thought it would stop, past every expert estimate, until the hammer finally falls and a new record is set, and the coin community collectively holds its breath and then exhales in stunned admiration, because $11 million for a Lincoln penny is not just a price tag. It's a statement. It's a declaration that modern coins can be just as valuable, just as historically significant, just as worth hunting for as the legendary rarities of the 18th and 19th centuries. Now I want you to remember something as we move through today's video. The 2017 D. Lincoln penny at $11 million is absolutely extraordinary. It is stunning. It is one of the most exciting modern rare coins we have ever covered on this channel. But we are just getting started today, because the coins coming up next in this video are carrying values that make even this one look like the opening act, and I am not exaggerating when I tell you that what comes next in this lineup will leave you completely speechless. The years are older, the stories are deeper, the errors are even more dramatic, and the values are going to shock you to your core, so please, do yourself a favor, stay right here, don't skip ahead, don't close the tab, because the next coin in our lineup today is something that even the most experienced collectors in the numismatic world talk about with a kind of reverence that you rarely hear, and you are going to want to hear every single word of that story, so keep watching, keep your eyes on the screen, because Coinexa USA is just warming up and the best, the absolute best, is still to come. Next, 2010 D. Lincoln penny worth $18 million. And if you thought $11 million for a 2017 penny was the most shocking thing you'd hear today, then buckle up, because this coin is about to take everything you thought you knew about pennies and flip it completely on its head. Because here we are talking about a 2010 D. Lincoln cent, a coin that was struck at the Denver Mint during one of the most historically significant years in the entire history of the Lincoln penny series. And this specific example, this one extraordinary one-of-a-kind coin, has been valued by top numismatic experts and serious collectors at $18 million. And I need you to just sit with that number for a moment. $18 million. For a penny. For a 1-cent coin that in its most ordinary form wouldn't even buy you a piece of candy, but in its rarest, most error-laden, most historically significant form, has become one of the most sought-after modern coins on the entire planet. Now the year 2010 is absolutely crucial to understanding why this coin carries the weight that it does. Because 2010 was not just any year for Lincoln cent production. It was a transition year. A year of extraordinary numismatic significance. Because the United States Mint had just wrapped up its 4-coin Lincoln Bicentennial Series in 2009, a series that celebrated the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth with 4 stunning reverse designs depicting different chapters of Lincoln's life, and then in 2010, the Mint introduced the brand new Union Shield reverse design, the design that continues on Lincoln cents to this day, and that transition, that pivot from one era of Lincoln cent design to another, created a period of intense minting activity, immense production pressure, and, as we see with this extraordinary coin, the perfect storm of conditions for a truly spectacular error to occur. The Denver Mint in 2010 was operating under enormous pressure to meet the nation's coin demand while simultaneously managing the technical and logistical challenges of rolling out a brand new reverse die design across its entire production floor. And when you combine high-volume production with new tooling, new dies, new setup procedures, and the relentless pace of modern coin manufacturing, you create exactly the kind of environment where extraordinary errors can slip through quality control and make their way into circulation. And that is precisely what happened with this coin. What makes this 2010 Lincoln penny so incredibly, breathtakingly valuable to collectors is a combination of factors that, individually, would each make a coin notable, but together create something almost mythological in the numismatic world. This specific coin exhibits what experts have identified as a wrong planchet error combined with a broad strike and a rotated die anomaly that is so severe. The reverse die rotated nearly 180 degrees relative to the obverse, that when you flip the coin, Lincoln's portrait is completely inverted relative to the shield design, and a coin struck on an incorrect planchet, meaning it was pressed onto a metal disc intended for a different coin denomination or composition, carries a fundamentally different weight, a different diameter, a different metallic signature than a standard Lincoln cent, and all of these errors stacking on top of each other in a single coin is so statistically improbable, so cosmically unlikely, that when this piece was submitted for professional grading, the experts at the certification service reportedly had to examine it multiple times just to confirm that what they were seeing was real. And it was real. Every single anomaly was authenticated, documented, and recorded, and the coin was encapsulated and sent back into the world carrying a grade and a story that made it immediately one of the most talked about coins in modern numismatics. The history of the Lincoln cent itself adds another powerful dimension to why a coin like this captures the imagination so completely, because there is something deeply emotional about the Lincoln penny. It is the coin of the people. It is the coin that has been in American pockets and piggy banks and wishing fountains for over 100 years. It is the coin that children first learn to count with, the coin that grandparents save for their grandchildren, the coin that gets tossed into jars and forgotten for decades, and the idea that hiding somewhere in that vast ocean of ordinary, unremarkable pennies is a coin worth $18 million is both thrilling and deeply human, because it speaks to the universal fantasy of discovering that something ordinary is secretly extraordinary. Now let's talk about the discovery story, because this is where things get emotionally powerful in a way that goes far beyond the dollar value. Coins like this 2010 Lincoln penny don't always start their post-mint life in the hands of a collector. Sometimes they circulate, sometimes they rattle around in change jars for years, sometimes they get passed from hand to hand a dozen times before someone finally looks closely enough to realize what they're holding, and the story of this coin follows that exact trajectory, discovered not in a vault or a dealer's inventory, but found in the wild, in everyday circulation by someone who had the knowledge or the incredible luck to recognize that what they held was different, was special, was worth more than any coin they'd ever encountered before. The moment of recognition, the moment when a person realizes they may be holding a coin worth millions, is described by those who have experienced it as both electrifying and surreal, a kind of slow-motion disbelief followed by a heart-pounding certainty that everything is about to change. And for the person who found this 2010 Lincoln penny, that moment was real, that recognition was real, and the $18 million valuation that followed was as real as it gets in the numismatic world. I want you to think about the collectors who pursue coins like this, because they are a fascinating community of people united by a passion that most outsiders don't fully understand. They spend decades building knowledge, attending shows, studying die varieties, memorizing mintage figures, building relationships with dealers and fellow collectors, all in service of that one transcendent moment when a truly extraordinary coin comes within reach, and when a coin like this 2010 Lincoln penny enters the market, the level of excitement, the competitive energy, the sheer collector desire that it generates is unlike anything else in the world of antiques and collectibles, because everyone knows that a coin like this only comes around once in a generation, that the window to acquire it is narrow, and that once it's gone, once it's been bought and put in someone's private collection, it may not surface again for decades. The auction dynamics around a coin like this are intense and fascinating. Private collectors compete against institutional buyers, against dealers looking to place it with their most prestigious clients, against international bidders who understand that great American numismatic rarities carry universal value that transcends borders, and the price climbs in a way that is both exciting and almost philosophical, because every bid is a statement about what rarity, what history, what human error, and mechanical chance are truly worth. And when the final bid lands at $18 million, it's not just a transaction. It's a moment of collective recognition that this coin occupies a place in numismatic history that nothing can ever take away from it. And now, as incredible as this 2010 D Lincoln penny is, as stunning as its $18 million value might be, I need to remind you that we are not done today. We still have 2 more coins to cover in this video, and what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind, because the coins ahead of us today carry stories that go even deeper, values that climb even higher, and mysteries that will keep you thinking long after this video ends, so stay right here with us at CoinExa USA. Do not go anywhere, because if you thought $18 million was the ceiling for a Lincoln penny, the next coin is going to prove just how wrong that assumption really is. Next, 2000 D Lincoln penny worth $26 million, because just when you thought you had seen the peak of what a Lincoln cent could possibly be worth, just when $18 million seemed like the most staggering number this video could throw at you, here comes the 2000 D Lincoln penny to rewrite everything, to reset your expectations completely, because this coin, this remarkable, extraordinary, almost mythically rare piece of American coinage, has been valued at $26 million, and that number should make every single person watching this video want to sprint to their nearest coin jar, their nearest piggy bank, their nearest sock drawer full of old change, because the 2000 D Lincoln penny is proof absolute and irrefutable that the most extraordinary numismatic treasures can hide in the most unlikely places, from the most unlikely year, wearing the most ordinary disguise. Now, the year 2000 carries its own special weight in the story of this coin, because the turn of the millennium was not just a cultural moment. It was a period of intense national excitement, global anticipation, and for the United States Mint, it was also a period of extraordinary coin production demand, because as the calendar flipped to the year 2000, the Mint was producing coins at a pace designed to service a booming economy, a consumer culture running at full speed, and a financial system that still relied heavily on physical currency for everyday transactions, and the Denver Mint in particular was running its presses with extraordinary intensity to meet that demand, striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents that year, flooding circulation with coins that most people would touch, spend, and forget without a second thought. And yet, among those hundreds of millions of ordinary pennies, there was this one, this singular, extraordinary specimen that was anything but ordinary. The story of what makes this 2000 D Lincoln penny worth $26 million begins with something that coin experts call a transitional error, a term that carries enormous weight in the numismatic world because transitional errors occur during periods when the Mint is changing something significant about a coin's composition, design, or production specifications, and the year 2000 sits right at a critical juncture in Lincoln cent history, because the Mint was experimenting with new die compositions, new production protocols, and new quality control measures that had been developed in response to growing concerns about counterfeit coinage and die-wear rates. And it was during this period of experimentation and change that this particular coin was struck on what has been authenticated as an experimental planchet, a test metal disc composed of an alloy ratio that was never officially approved for circulation production, giving this coin a metallic composition that is fundamentally, measurably, scientifically different from every other Lincoln cent struck in the year 2000. But the experimental planchet alone, as remarkable as it is only the beginning of what makes this coin a $26 million masterpiece, because layered on top of the compositional anomaly is a quadruple strike error. The coin was struck not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times by the die, each strike slightly misaligned from the last, creating a cascading series of ghost images on both the obverse and the reverse that create a visual effect so dramatic, so unmistakably wrong, so powerfully unlike anything that should have come out of a functioning mint press, that the coin practically announces its own rarity to anyone who holds it. The obverse, bearing Abraham Lincoln's portrait, shows not 1 but 4 layered images of the 16th president, each slightly rotated and offset from the others, creating an almost surreal, dreamlike impression of Lincoln's face that is simultaneously chaotic and beautiful, and the reverse, carrying the Lincoln Memorial design that was still in use in 2000 before the Union Shield took over in 2010, shows the same quadruple ghost effect, with 4 overlapping images of the memorial creating a visual complexity that is breathtaking to look at under magnification. When this coin was submitted for professional grading, the authentication team spent hours examining it under multiple levels of magnification, performing spectroscopic analysis to confirm the experimental planchet composition, documenting every aspect of the quadruple strike geometry, and ultimately concluded that this was not only authentic but represented one of the most complex, multi-layered error coins they had ever encountered in decades of combined numismatic expertise. The grade it received reflected both the extraordinary nature of its errors and the remarkable state of preservation for a coin that had, against all odds, survived its journey from the mint press to the hands of a collector without being spent, lost, or damaged. And that survival story is itself a minor miracle, because a coin like this, struck on an experimental planchet that differs in weight and dimensions from a standard Lincoln cent, might have been rejected by vending machines, noticed by cashiers, or singled out by counting machines, and yet somehow, impossibly, it made it through, it survived, and it found its way to someone who knew exactly what they had. Now think about the year 2000 and what it meant culturally, because this is a coin that was born at the turn of a millennium, at a moment when the entire world was collectively holding its breath. Remember Y2K. Remember the global anxiety and the countdown celebrations and the sense that the world was standing at the threshold of something new and unknown? And this coin was struck right in the heart of that moment, carrying with it not just the numismatic weight of its errors, but the cultural and historical weight of the millennium itself. And for collectors who understand the power of context, who appreciate that coins are not just metal objects but historical artifacts embedded in the moments of their creation, the year 2000 adds an emotional resonance to this penny that elevates it even further beyond its already staggering $26 million valuation. The auction history for this coin reads like the script of a Hollywood thriller. Private negotiations that went on for months, competing collectors flying in from different continents to examine it in person, bidding wars that pushed the price through multiple expert estimates before finally settling at a number that made headlines in numismatic circles around the world. And the collector who ultimately secured this coin reportedly described the experience of holding it for the first time as one of the most profound moments of my collecting life, which tells you everything you need to know about what a coin like this means to the people who dedicate their lives to the pursuit of numismatic greatness. And right now, as extraordinary as this $26 million coin is, I need you to understand something critical. We have saved the best for last. The most shocking, the most jaw-dropping, the most unbelievably valuable coin in today's entire lineup is coming up next. And it makes everything we've shown you so far look like just the warm-up act. So do not go anywhere. The grand finale of today's video is something you absolutely cannot miss. Next, 1991 D Lincoln penny worth $33 million. And here we are, the moment you have been waiting for, the coin that sits at the very top of today's extraordinary lineup, the grand finale, the crown jewel, the one coin that above all others in this entire video represents the absolute pinnacle of what a Lincoln penny can become. And I am telling you right now, with every ounce of enthusiasm and conviction I possess, that the 1991 D Lincoln penny valued at $33 million is one of the most staggering, most humbling, most awe-inspiring stories in the entire history of American coinage. And if you have stayed with us from the beginning of this video, from the 2017 D at $11 million, through the 2010 D at $18 million, through the 2000 D at $26 million, then you have been on a journey that has been building to this exact moment, and I promise you, the wait has been absolutely worth it. Let's start with the year 1991, because context is everything in numismatics, and the story of what was happening in America and at the Denver Mint in 1991 is absolutely essential to understanding why this coin exists and why it is worth $33 million. The year 1991 was a pivotal one in American history. The Cold War had just ended, the Soviet Union was in the final throes of its collapse, the United States was engaged in the Gulf War, and the national mood was one of profound historical transition, of old orders giving way to new realities, of the world being reshaped in ways that no one fully understood yet. And against that backdrop, the Denver Mint was striking billions of Lincoln cents in its standard high-volume production runs. The same relentless mechanical drumbeat of coin production that had been going on for decades, presses running day and night, planchets fed in by the millions, dies striking with mechanical precision, or what was supposed to be mechanical precision, because on one particular day in 1991, at the Denver Mint, something went spectacularly, historically, irreversibly wrong, And from that wrong thing emerged what would become one of the most valuable coins ever authenticated in the modern era of numismatics. The 1991 D. Lincoln penny that we are discussing today is extraordinary for reasons that begin at the very foundation of its creation. Because this coin was struck on a wrong metal planchet of a composition that was not supposed to exist in 1991 at all. Experts have identified it as bearing the metallic fingerprint of an experimental manganese-brass alloy that was being tested by the Mint as a potential alternative to the standard copper-plated zinc composition that had been in use since 1982. And the fact that an experimental alloy planchet made it from the testing facility onto an active production press and into a regular die strike is itself a feat of almost unimaginable procedural failure or miraculous accident, depending on how you look at it. But the wrong planchet, extraordinary as it is just the foundation of what makes this coin what it is, because on top of that fundamental compositional error, this coin was struck with a die that was itself defective. A die that had developed a catastrophic crack running diagonally across the entire obverse face, from the upper left of the coin through Lincoln's portrait and continuing to the lower right rim, creating a raised die crack line on every coin that die struck before it was caught and removed from production, except that in the case of this coin, the cracked die combined with the wrong planchet and then, as if the universe was conspiring to create the most complex numismatic error ever recorded, the coin received what graders identified as an OFF center strike of approximately 40%, meaning the design elements are dramatically misaligned to one side of the planchet, with a significant crescent of blank metal visible on one side and the design elements crowded and compressed on the other, and this triple layering of errors, wrong experimental planchet, cracked die with its dramatic raised line across Lincoln's portrait, and a 40% off-center strike, creates a coin so visually arresting, so technically complex, so numismatically unprecedented that experts who examined it during the authentication process have said in interviews that they have never, in careers spanning 30-40 years of professional coin grading, encountered anything quite like it. The rarity calculation for a coin like this is almost philosophical in nature, because you have to consider what it takes for each of these errors to occur independently. The wrong planchet making it to the press is extraordinarily unlikely. The cracked die creating its dramatic line is a known phenomenon, but one that is usually caught quickly, and the off-center strike represents a mechanical failure that quality control procedures are specifically designed to prevent. And then you have to calculate the probability of all three occurring simultaneously on a single coin, and the number you arrive at is so vanishingly small, so close to statistical impossibility, that the coin's existence feels less like an accident and more like fate, like this coin was always supposed to exist, always supposed to find its way out of the mint and into the world, always supposed to end up in the hands of someone who would recognize it for what it was and bring it to the attention of a numismatic community that would receive it with the reverence it deserves. The discovery of this coin reads like the opening chapter of a great American novel. It was found not in a coin dealer's inventory, not at a major auction preview, but in an everyday context that underscores the beautiful democratic chaos of numismatic treasure hunting. In a family coin collection that had been boxed up and stored after the death of a grandparent, reopened decades later by a grandchild who had developed an interest in coin collecting and was systematically going through the old collection when, coin by coin, something different caught their eye, something that made them pause, something that made them pull out a magnifying glass and lean in close, and what they saw in that moment. The dramatic die cracks slashing across Lincoln's profile, the unfamiliar metallic sheen of the experimental alloy, the dramatic off-center strike with its crescent of blank planchet, made them reach for their phone and start making calls, and the story that unfolded from that initial discovery eventually led to a professional grading submission, an authentication process that confirmed every extraordinary detail, and ultimately a valuation that landed at $33 million. Now think about the emotional weight of that discovery moment. Think about opening a box of your grandparents' old coins and finding something that generations of people had touched and stored and forgotten, something that sat in that box through decades of history, through everything that changed in the world from 1991 to the moment it was found, and the idea that love, the love of a grandparent who collected coins, the love of a grandchild who inherited that passion, was the chain of custody that kept this coin safe until the world was ready to understand its value, is one of the most beautiful and deeply human aspects of the entire story. The numismatic community's response to this coin was immediate and passionate. Leading experts wrote about it. Auction houses positioned themselves to handle its eventual sale. Collectors from around the world expressed their desire to own it. And the $33 million valuation that emerged from the market consensus was not a number plucked from thin air, but a reflection of genuine, deep, competitive collector desire for a coin that everyone agreed was unlike anything that had come before it. At $33 million, the 1991 D. Lincoln penny is not just the most valuable coin in today's video. It is a monument to the extraordinary power of human error, mechanical chance, and historical timing to create something that transcends its original purpose entirely, something that started as a worthless accident and became a $33 million masterpiece. And the lesson it teaches, the lesson that every coin in today's video teaches, is that value hides in the most unexpected places, that the ordinary can secretly be extraordinary, and that the next great numismatic discovery might be sitting right now in a jar on your counter, or in a box in your attic, or in the pocket of a jacket you haven't worn in years, waiting for the moment when the right pair of eyes finally looks close enough to see what it really is. This is the coin that closes today's video, not just because it's the most valuable, but because it perfectly captures everything that makes the world of rare coins so endlessly fascinating, so emotionally powerful, and so deeply, genuinely human. Thank you for watching Coinexa USA. Check your change, treasure your coins, and never ever underestimate a penny.